Elvis Is Back is among my very favorite Elvis albums, and I think it's pretty much considered to be one of his best albums by most fans. And sure enough, in Japan it was released many times over the years, and we're going to be looking at a few of the different versions that came out. So let's go right back to the first edition, which came out in July 1960, and it was actually the mono version which came out first. That's this one here, and it was not in a gatefold sleeve, just a single pocket sleeve. And the price of mono records at the time was 1,700 yen, but shortly after the release of this album they were reduced to 1,500 yen, and they remained that way until the last mono album, Fun in Acapulco. As you can see, some of the photographs are missing. There are only 10 photos here as opposed to 15 on the American album, and for some reason this photograph here has been reversed. And another unusual thing about this album is the liner notes. You can see there's a name at the bottom here, Ichiro Fukuda, and this was the first time that the writer of the liner notes was credited on the album, on an Elvis album at any rate. And if you look at the track listing at the top there, it is written in both English and Japanese. You can see that the first song is actually Such a Night, and then it proceeds to Soldier Boy, and then continues through the rest of what we know as side 2. So that means that side 2 itself begins with Make Me Know It, and the album ends perhaps a little bit anticlimactically on Thrill of Your Love. And here is the record. There was a stereo pressing which came out later that year, a few months after the mono pressing. It's extremely hard to find, and it initially came with gold labels, and then there's another stereo version with black labels, which is also very hard to find. And this is actually the inner sleeve. Unusually they printed the lyrics on the inner sleeve, not on an insert. The album reappeared in January 1963 in a slightly different cover, because the title had changed to Such a Night. This is a stereo copy, and the title was also Such a Night in Japanese. The original album was called Elvis Is Back in Japanese as well. And this album also changed in a couple of other ways. The liner notes were shortened slightly, removing the references to Elvis's time in the armed forces. And you also have the lyrics here on the back cover, and this time there were no army pictures whatsoever, so it's as though they wanted to get rid of all reference to Elvis's time in the army. So that was a stereo copy there. Still on this Victor label. And that was followed a few months later by the mono copy. Quite a few months later, actually. In July 1963, so this would have been one of the very last mono records made in Japan. Same title in mono as well. The only difference here is the catalogue number at the top. As for the running order, it is exactly the same as the first version. So it begins with Such a Night and ends with Thrill of Your Love. And because it's a mono version, then the label design is just slightly different to the stereo one. And they also reissued it on RCA in 1969. You can see the RCA logo up here. The title is still Such a Night, and the back cover is actually exactly the same as the stereo copy from 63. However, they did put the songs on the correct sides this time. So if you look, this is side 2. Side 2 begins with Such a Night and then proceeds to Soldier Boy, and the album ends with Reconsider Baby. So they've still got Such a Night before Soldier Boy, but the album does begin with Make Me Know It for the first time. The album was released again in 1973 as part of a series of albums, and you can see that they've used the original title here. By this point, I think that in Japan the American albums and American designs were considered cooler than the original Japanese versions. So in this case, they've used the American artwork. Well, not quite the same as the American version, because this is not a gatefold sleeve, but they did include all 15 army photos for the first time. So this is your insert that you get with most Japanese LPs, with Japanese liner notes and English lyrics, but this one is a bit different because it folds out, and there you go, all the 15 pictures are there for the first time. And again, this one's on the RCA label. And I forgot to mention this, didn't I? On the side 2, the first song is Soldier Boy, followed by Such a Night. So in fact, this was the first time that they released the songs in the correct running order. And the last time the album was released was in 1992. And I did a whole video about this series with the black obi. And just to show you again very briefly, this was the first and only time the album was released in Japan with a gatefold sleeve, just as it was originally in America. And it actually has the title on the spine as well on this version. So there you are, a quick tour of Elvis Is Back, Japanese style. I haven't included all the albums. There are a couple of other versions that I haven't shown, but I'll leave it there for today. Let me know what you think about this great album, and see you next time. Thanks for watching. Cheers.